I was home alone, watching a game on the tablet Emily and I had bought together, the one that was technically shared, even though Chloe never used it. A message notification popped up at the top of the screen, and I saw the name Mark, and a preview that made my stomach absolutely drop. My heart hammered against my ribs. I opened the Messages app, and what I found there, it just shattered every assumption I'd made about my breakup, about the timeline, about everything. See, for 2 years, David, thought Chloe and I were building something real. I was 29, a project manager for a construction firm in Austin, just got promoted. Decent salary, my own place. Pretty standard stuff. Chloe, 27, was an event coordinator, always hustling with social media gigs on the side. She was the kind of person who just worked a room, always had her phone out, capturing every aesthetic moment. Me? I'm function over form. She was all about presentation. But, opposites attract, right? We met at my buddy Sam's backyard barbecue. She showed up in this perfect sundress, hair immaculate, even though it was sweltering. She had this energy that just pulled people in. Our first date lasted almost 6 hours because neither of us wanted it to end. 3 months in, she was basically living at my place, and I thought things were great. That's when the small stuff started. One Saturday, while I was out running errands, I came home to find my living room furniture rearranged. She said the layout blocked the natural flow. My practical IKEA lamp got swapped for some vintage brass thing she found at an estate sale that barely lit the room. My bathroom counter? Swamped with about 30 skincare products, my stuff pushed into one tiny drawer. Every time I'd try to say something, she'd just smile and tell me she was making it feel like home. And I didn't want to seem ungrateful, so I just let it slide. Looking back, she was testing boundaries, seeing how much she could reshape things without me pushing back. Around the 1-year mark, my lease was up, and she suggested we find a place together. I was looking at practical 2-bedrooms. Good bones, affordable. She shot down every single one. Too boring, no character, not the right area. Then she found this industrial loft in a converted warehouse. Exposed brick, huge windows, the whole aesthetic package. The rent was about 40% more than I wanted to spend. When I hesitated, she hit me with, "I thought you wanted to build a beautiful life with me. Don't I deserve nice things after everything?" I didn't even know what everything meant, but I signed the lease. We agreed to split it 50-50, but somehow, I ended up covering utilities, internet, parking, groceries most weeks. The math never quite balanced, but she had a way of making me feel cheap for bringing it up. For about 18 months after that, though, things actually felt solid. We adopted Milo, this little orange tabby who became obsessed with my laptop keyboard. We had Friday night dinners with friends, weekend trips to Enchanted Rock, long conversations about kids and future plans. She'd show me Pinterest boards of wedding venues and floral arrangements. I genuinely thought we were building towards something. Then one night in October, I came home from a brutal day on site. Some permitting issue had cost us weeks. I was exhausted, just wanted to eat and zone out. Chloe was on the couch, hands folded in her lap, with this serious expression I'd never seen before. She said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. She went into this whole speech about needing to find herself, feeling like she was missing out on experiences, needing space to grow. When I asked, "Is there someone else?" she looked offended, like I was the unreasonable one. She made it sound like this mature, necessary decision. Here's the part that should have told me everything: she didn't want to move out. She suggested we keep living together until the lease ended in 7 months. Said it would be too expensive to break it early, that $4,000 penalty was more than she could handle. I agreed. I was too shocked to think straight. So, we became exes living under the same roof. She framed it as us being mature adults. The first week, she started coming home late. Not midnight late, more like 2 or 3 in the morning. She'd leave around 8 or 9 at night, always dressed up, heels and makeup, outfits I'd never seen her wear when we were together. She'd slip back in smelling like cologne that definitely wasn't mine. When I asked where she'd been, she'd mention work events or helping friends. But I knew her friends, and none of their schedules matched her stories. None of it added up, but we weren't together, so it technically wasn't my business. I stopped asking questions. I started rebuilding my own life. I picked up photography again, something I'd dropped in college. Took my camera out on weekends to shoot landscapes around Austin and San Marcos. I made plans with Sam and our other friends, poker nights, fishing trips. I wasn't waiting for Chloe to change her mind. I was moving forward, and I think that's what she didn't expect. Around late November, about 6 weeks after the breakup, I met Emily. She was a nurse at the hospital near my office. We ran into each other at a coffee shop where I'd started working some mornings to avoid the weird tension at home. She ordered her coffee black, no sugar. When the barista tried to upsell her, she just said, "No thanks, I'm good." I liked that. We started talking, found out she worked night shifts in the ER, which explained why she was getting coffee at 2 in the afternoon. She was direct, no games, no performative social media presence. Just a real person with a demanding job and a dry sense of humor. I mentioned my living situation on our second coffee meetup. Told her I was sharing an apartment with my ex until the lease ended. She just nodded and said, "That sounds complicated, but I appreciate you being upfront." No drama, no judgment. We started seeing each other casually, lunch dates, walks in the park. It felt easy in a way things with Chloe never had. Like I didn't have to perform. I thought I was handling everything maturely, keeping my personal life separate, respecting the weird boundaries of living with an ex. I thought I was being smart. I was being naive. And what I found on that tablet, scrolling through Chloe's messages to Mark, revealed that her late nights weren't about finding herself at all. The messages went back 5 months. 5 months. That meant they started 2 weeks before Chloe broke up with me. Everything she'd said about needing space and finding herself was a complete fabrication. I sat there scrolling through conversations that got progressively more explicit. Photos I won't describe, videos that made it clear this wasn't some emotional affair that turned physical. This was calculated. There were hotel names, times they'd meet up, mentions of conferences that I now realized were covers for weekend trips. One message from early November made me physically sick. Her complaining about having to keep quiet when she got home because her roommate might hear. Roommate. That's what I'd become in her story. The worst part wasn't the content. It was the dates. I cross-referenced them with a small notebook I'd kept, nothing obsessive, just dates and times of her late returns because the whole situation had felt off. Every single late night matched up with messages to Mark. The Thursday she got home at 3:45? She'd been at the Hyatt downtown with him. The Friday at 2:15? Some bar and then his place. She'd been lying to my face for months, while sleeping in the room next to mine, and I'd been too trusting to see it. I took screenshots of everything. Not for revenge, but because I needed proof that I wasn't crazy, that this was real and documented, something she couldn't rewrite later. I started paying closer attention. I noticed her pattern. Certain nights she'd get dressed up. Certain excuses she'd rotate through. I set up a cheap security camera in the living room, angled at the front door. I told myself it was for package theft, but really, I wanted a record of her coming and going. The footage confirmed what the messages already told me. She wasn't just seeing Mark. There were at least 2 other guys I could identify from the times they'd walk her to the door. She'd turned our apartment into her base of operations for whatever this phase of her life was. I did some digging on Mark through social media. Took me about 20 minutes to find out he was married. His wife, Sarah, had a public Instagram. Lots of photos of them together, pictures from their wedding 3 years ago, posts about their dog and their house in the suburbs. She had no idea what her husband was doing, just like I hadn't known what Chloe was doing. I sat with that information for 2 days, going back and forth on whether it was my place to say anything. Finally, I decided Sarah deserved to know. The same way I wished someone had told me before I wasted 2 years. I sent her a message through Instagram. I kept it factual and non-emotional. Included dates, screenshots with names visible, but intimate content cropped out. Enough that she could verify it herself. I told her I was sorry to be the one to tell her this, but that I'd want someone to tell me. I told her she could reach out if she needed any other information. Then I sent it and tried not to think about the bomb I'd just dropped. She read it within an hour, but didn't respond, and I figured that was the end of my involvement. 3 days later, someone was pounding on my apartment door at 9 p.m. I looked through the peephole and saw a guy I didn't recognize, mid-30s, dressed in business casual, face red with anger. I opened the door with the chain still on, and he immediately started yelling, asking if I was David, calling me a liar and a homewrecker. It took me a second to realize this was Mark, and he was here to intimidate me into retracting whatever I'd told his wife. I stayed calm, told him through the chain that I had documented everything, that his wife deserved the truth, and that he should leave before I called the police. He kept yelling, trying to push the door open, saying I destroyed his family over nothing. That's when Chloe came out of her room. She went pale the second she saw Mark at the door. He turned his anger on her immediately. They started arguing right there in the hallway, him accusing her of running her mouth, her trying to calm him down. Both of them completely forgot I existed for a minute. He yelled that she'd told him she was single, that she played him just like she played me, that his wife had kicked him out and taken everything. Then he pulled out his phone, opened up a text thread, and started reading messages out loud. Her telling him she loved him, that she'd wait for him to leave his wife, promising him a future. Chloe tried to grab his phone, but he yanked it away, told her she could live with the consequences of her lies, and stormed off down the hallway. Chloe just stood there shaking, and I closed the door. The next morning, my phone was destroyed. 12 missed calls from Chloe, all between midnight and 3 a.m. A string of texts that started apologetic and ended angry. Voice messages I didn't bother listening to. I was making coffee when she came out of her room. Eyes red like she'd been crying, and she immediately started in on me. She said she thought I'd wait for her, that she didn't think I'd actually move on, that she needed time, but didn't think time meant I'd be with someone else. I just stared at her, waiting for the part where any of this made sense. I laid it out simply. She broke up with me. She asked for space. She'd been going out every night with whoever she was seeing, coming home at 4 a.m. smelling like someone else. She didn't get to put me on hold like a library book and expect me to sit on a shelf waiting. She tried to interrupt, but I kept going. I told her she'd made her choice. I'd respected it, and now she had to respect mine. She called me cold, said I'd changed, said the David she knew would have fought for what we had. I told her the Chloe I knew wouldn't have played games for 5 months and expected me not to notice. She locked herself in her room after that. I didn't see her for the rest of the day. I went to Emily's place that night, told her everything that happened at the apartment. She listened without judgment. She asked if I wanted her to step back until my living situation sorted itself out. I told her absolutely not. Chloe didn't get to dictate my life anymore. I contacted our apartment management the next day with documentation. The cameras had caught Mark's outburst, plus footage of multiple unauthorized guests staying overnight, which violated our lease terms. I had records of noise complaints from neighbors about her late-night returns. The management company reviewed everything and sent Chloe a lease violation notice. Gave her 30 days to vacate or they'd pursue eviction. They offered me a new lease for a smaller unit at a reduced rate if I wanted to stay. No penalty for breaking the current one early. I took it immediately. Chloe tried apologizing after the Mark incident. Said things had gotten out of hand, that she'd made mistakes, but never meant to harm me. I didn't engage. I'd gone through her social media posts from the past few months and noticed something else. A bunch of her aesthetic photos, the ones she posted from nice restaurants and hotels, had branded items visible in the background. Tablets with her company's logo, folders, swag from corporate events. She'd been using company resources for her personal life, probably expensing dinners and hotel rooms as business costs. I compiled everything into an anonymous email and sent it to her company's HR department with timestamps and screenshots. They could decide what to do with it. 2 weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that she'd been let go from her job. The official reason was restructuring, but the timing seemed pretty convenient. She tried calling me from different numbers, leaving voicemails about how everything was falling apart, how she was staying on her friend's couch, how she'd made mistakes, but didn't deserve this. I blocked every number. She showed up at the apartment once to get the last of her stuff. Asked about Milo, suggested we could share custody of the cat. I asked her when the last time she'd cleaned his litter box, when she'd taken him to the vet, when she'd bought his food. She couldn't answer any of it because she'd never done those things. Milo was mine. Emily helped me move into the new place in January. Smaller apartment, better energy, no ghosts of a failed relationship haunting the rooms. Chloe sent one final text from a number I hadn't blocked yet. Said she was sorry for everything, that she understood if I hated her, that maybe someday we could talk. I replied with one sentence, "You didn't change. You just don't like consequences." Then I blocked that number too. I ran into Sarah a few months later at a coffee shop. Complete coincidence. We talked for a bit. Awkward at first, but then easier. She'd filed for divorce, sold the house, was rebuilding. She thanked me for telling her, even though it hurt. Said not knowing would have been worse. We stayed in touch occasionally after that. Nothing deep, just two people who'd survived something similar. Emily and I got engaged in November, exactly 1 year after that rooftop party where Chloe had tried to sabotage us. Simple proposal, nothing elaborate, just honest and real. We adopted a second cat a month later, named him Pepper, and he immediately bonded with Milo like they'd always been brothers. Life got quiet in the best way possible. No drama, no games, no wondering where someone was at 3 a.m. Just simple, honest stability with someone who didn't need to perform love, because she actually felt it. Chloe still exists somewhere out there, probably creating a new aesthetic for a new life. But that's not my problem anymore. Looking back, the biggest lesson here is that actions reveal character in ways words never can. Chloe's whole speech about needing space was theater, a script designed to keep me as an option while she explored others. The moment consequences arrived, she wanted sympathy for problems she created. Real growth means accepting that some bridges burn because you lit the match. No amount of apologies can rebuild what deliberate deception destroyed. When someone shows you who they really are through their choices, believe them the first time, and protect your peace accordingly. What would you have done differently in this situation? And do you think telling Sarah was the right move, or should people stay out of other people's marriages even when they have proof of betrayal?